Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I'm still a little rusty at putting my equipment together to do a plein air painter. So the last couple of live videos I've done, you get to watch me drop things and fumble around for the first couple of minutes. Let's see. I can't see the screen, so let's see. It looks like you can see my canvas and you can see the subject pretty well. I might move my canvas just a little bit closer. I need to grab my paint still and some solvent. I'll be right back. All right, I'm still getting set up, you all. One thing about live video, it's not always action-packed at the very beginning. I still have this normal stuff to set up. I brought my iPad so that I could see if any of you have any questions. I can't see the camera right now, so I think you could see me, but I'm going to take a look and make sure. Let's see. Well, I need to do something real quick. Okay, I'm trying to be able to see you while I'm working. Okay, I can see the screen. But let's see. I don't know if it's live. Oh, okay, there I am. I'm coming. Yeah, that looks good. I think it's all set up. I've got one more thing I need to do, and I'll be right back to start this painting. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here in beautiful Mays Lick, Kentucky, at my friend Mike and John's house. They have a real pretty old stone house from the 1700s. And every time I visit them, I tell them, I wish I'd brought my paints, because it's like stepping into a painting when you're here. Like most artists, I've always wanted to go to Europe and have a chance to paint some of the really old buildings back there. And one nice thing about living in Kentucky, a lot of people, the early people that moved here, were from Europe, so you get a chance to see some old architecture that's kind of from that same time and place. So I thought to start off, I'm going to flip this camera around. I'm going to flip this around so you can see me while I talk. Hi everybody. I thought I'd walk around the house real quick just so you could see some of the house and all the pretty things. Pretty much every direction has pretty stuff. Let's see, it looks like Greta has a question. Can you bring the camera closer to the canvas? I think I can. I'm going to walk around the house real quick, and then when I set the camera up to start painting, I'll move the camera a little closer so you could watch as I'm painting. I want to have it set up where you could see the subject and the canvas. So let me just walk around the house real quick and just show you some of the pretty stuff. Let's see how if I could flip this around. So one thing I've been real interested in is apple trees. And look at the neighbors here. Could you imagine? I love my neighbors, but I wouldn't mind neighbors like this either. So they have been growing apples, and if you live in Kentucky, you know that we had a weird freeze at a bad time. So I wanted to show off their apple trees. I just like the shape and the color of apple trees. So my idea for the painting is to have these trees and the house all in one panoramic style painting. Now I talked a little bit about how a lot of Kentucky was settled by early American or early European immigrants. So some of the early architecture and things are kind of reminiscent of old Europe. And if you look here, I don't know if you could see, do you see the old stone wall there? Kentucky's kind of it's kind of neat to see these old stone walls. And there's a whole bunch of cows. I don't know if you could see them, but that's pretty cool neighbors to have too. Okay, well let's go and look at the house. I'm going to walk around real quick, and then I'll start painting. I personally love old houses, so to me it's real special to get to visit somebody's house that has done a lot of work to preserve them. I get a little bit jealous when I look at their vegetable garden. They did a whole lot better than I did this year. But look at these. I love these Brussels sprouts. I've never had luck growing Brussels sprouts. Gosh, there's a lot to... Look at the scarecrow. Isn't he cool? What I wanted to show you was the front of the house. Oh, well there's John and Mike right there. Hey guys. I was walking my friends around the house to show them the front of the house. It's a little too bright. Gosh, now that I'm up here, this wouldn't make a bad painting either. The light changed a lot since earlier. Couldn't you see it have the house here and then the garden on the side? Boy, I'm bad at making decisions. The light completely changed from when I first got here, and I knew it would do that.
Right.
I don't know.
You got a good spot now.
I'm pretty committed to the spot I picked, but
You can come back.
you know what? You guys live so close. You're like 10 minutes away. I might have to do that. I think one thing I was worried about, I'm going to back up. Since it's still summer, there's a lot of leaves on the trees still, and if I back up to get the view that I'd like, you lose a lot of the house. So that's why I chose not to do this house or this view. But it sure is pretty. You guys have really done a lot of work. I remember when you first moved here, and
a lot yet to be done.
Well, I think with old houses, there's always a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
To be done. Can I turn? Do you want to wave it? We have a lot of the same friends. If you want to.
Hey everybody. How you doing? Welcome.
Say hi.
Hey, hey.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming out.
Over. I've got my easel set up and I'm ready to start painting, but I'm kind of like that squirrel that gets distracted real easy. I start walking around and now I might want to paint somewhere else.
We got amazed. We ran into pictures last week of when we first bought the place, and all these trees were just sticks. They were about 6 feet tall. A lot of the ones that these walnut trees out front, and we're just amazed how they've grown in 10 years.
Well, there's some saying about the best time to plant a tree is 50 years ago, and then the second best time to plant a tree is right now.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
I like your garden so much. I was tempted to not even paint the house at all, and just some of the flowers, but I think the cold weather we had last night, they might be a little sleepier than they were even a few days ago.
It was 39 here this morning.
Whew. I was cold. I had a thermostat. I have some electric heaters with the thermostat, and they clicked on. I didn't realize it was that cold. And there's Max. I don't know if you can hear Max. He wants to come out and say hi, but I think he's going to stay inside.
He's a little annoyed.
Well, I understand. I have dogs, so if there's any company, they want to hang out with the company.
Right. Yeah, he's very social.
So here's more of the apple trees, and I just love apple trees. I don't know what it is.
Oh, these are heirloom trees from a place in North Carolina, a nursery that specializes in old trees.
Well, they're beautiful. I'm real disappointed that there was a frost, and I'm sure the apples are even more exciting than the tree.
Well, we're hoping one year we don't have a late frost and we might see something.
Well, I know you know Bob and Annadale who raise peaches, and it seems like they'll have 3 or 4 or 5 years with no peaches, and then they finally get a good year.
Right.
And it's a real big time to celebrate when they get they're delicious when they get them.
Right. You have to appreciate it. Time.
Well, do you see up here is where I've set up. I've decided to get close to the fence.
Okay.
And I'm going to try to get the back of the house and the apple trees in the painting.
Well, good.
And I'm probably going to let's see, let me flip this around.
Are you going to climb the fence to get there?
No, I'm going to I guess I could, but I flipped it around so people could see us while I walk back there. I don't know, John, I know you do art. Have you? I don't think I've ever seen you paint, though. I know you do printmaking and pottery.
Yeah, never tried to paint before. That would be pretty interesting, though.
Well, this might be something. You need another thing to do. This could be another thing for you to do. All right, I'm going to flip this around so it's on the easel. And I'm worried that the wind might be causing noise for you all. Hopefully you could hear.
We can see if we can stop that.
Well, Mike offered to trim some trees when I was looking for a spot to paint, and in all the years I've painted, I have never had someone that hospitable to offer to chop up their landscaping for an artist.
Anything for Ken Quentin.
But we've been friends for a long time, and they've always been real art supportive. So I'm not as surprised as other people might be. I think this is how I want the camera to be to start, and hopefully you can see me. I'm gonna pull my iPad up and make sure everybody is in the picture the way we want to be. Let's see. You know, as if painting isn't hard enough, all of this technical stuff to be able to share, and then narrating really makes it interesting. But I enjoy it, but it's not as easy as it looks. There's a lot of moving parts here. Okay. Yep, and here's a moving part that isn't working. Great. Okay, yep, I've got it. I've got it. We're online. So let me refresh this and see. There's a lot to say for editing. Editing is really, really nice. I see, I've been talking for 20 minutes and there's no art on the canvas. So if I'm going to keep everybody's attention, I had better get to it. It looks like you could see me okay. If any of you have a question, feel free to type it out and I'll do my best to reply. And let's get to painting. So I brought my really expensive fancy sketchbook here, and my favorite way to draw is with a ink pen on just unimportant notebook paper, and this keeps me from getting too precious when I'm working the composition out. And at the very beginning I'm just going to work the shapes out, and I know I want to work on a panoramic board, and I know I want the house to take up probably the first half of that space. So I'm just going to block out, without even any details, I'm going to block the house out. And then I know there's a fence that comes sort of through the middle, and then I want to make sure I get those apple trees. So I've got an apple tree here. I'm editing. There's a tree in front of the second apple tree, but I'm just going to not draw it. And then there's a taller tree up here. Let's see, the back of the house is here. This view wouldn't have been my first choice for the house, but I like all of the different directions of roof and the three different chimneys. So, you know, kind of like with life, your plan doesn't always work out the way you originally expect it, but sometimes something just as cool comes out of it. So I'm feeling pretty good. I know there's a porch roof here and two windows, a chimney. Stones have always been kind of hard for me to paint because I'll get into the detail. Sometimes I have this problem with bricks. I'll try to paint every single little brick, or I'll try to paint every single stone. And you can do it. There's a style of painting where it's good to do that, but for me it's better to just kind of get a feel of the texture of those stones and not try to draw every single one. So I'm going to try to be mindful of that while I work this out. And then there's a big walnut tree behind the house, and I'm going to use this walnut tree to give me a little bit of contrast. Do you see how the shadow of the tree is dark, but the sun is hitting the edge of the house, and how light that is I'm going to use that contrast of light to dark to bring the viewer's attention to the house. And now there's some real pretty flowers as you come up to the house, so I'm going to make a little room for them in the drawing. I might not put the magnolia trees in the painting just to keep it from getting too busy. I would like to come back in the winter when you don't have as many. Now there's a hill that goes down, and right now I feel like it looks like it's going up. So I'm going to measure the angle. And I know there's a field in the background. Remember those cows? I think with a little bit of the colors and values I choose will give us a feeling of it being a hill with more things in the back. Okay. For what I'm doing, I feel like this is enough. I've noticed that this panorama is shorter. It's not as wide as this board. And this board is kind of unique. I wanted to show you the board. I was going to use this when I was at the river view from Aberdeen, and this board is a leftover from a printmaking project. This, you can see all the carvings from a previous printmaking project, and the back is a smooth, good surface for painting. So I've put gesso on it, and I think it's kind of cool to have a double painting. You have a little bit of printmaking and an oil painting all in one object, and I like recycling, and I like just like I want to say at the National Gallery of Art there's a famous Van Gogh painting where he painted on both sides of the painting, and the way they have it displayed, it's in a glass box, so you could look at both sides. You could see the painting on the front and the painting on the back. So I always think it's kind of cool when you can see more of the artist's process. So I'm going to look and see if anybody has any questions before I get started. Let's see, any questions, guys? Let's see.
They have a lot going on in that picture.
Okay, it's going to be very full of...
Well, yeah, you got a lot of architectural detail. It's like, it's a challenging work.
Well, I'm a greedy painter. I want to fit everything I can into the composition. So there's so many beautiful things, I'm just going to squeeze them all in.
Very good.
So I think I'm going to need an umbrella, and it's not necessarily for me, but what I've learned is that when you paint in the light like this is very bright light, and you would never have a light this bright in your house. So when I am working out color and values in bright light, it'll look bright and colorful to me, but then when I take it inside the house, which has more of a light like this, or maybe even darker than shadowed light, all of a sudden the painting looks really dull and not quite as... The colors aren't what I intended. So
right.
I've learned that if I keep the painting in... If I keep the painting in shade, I'm a lot happier at the end of the day with the painting when I take it inside.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you put direct light on the painting, some people have lights put in just to show the painting off. You'll get that same look, but paintings take on their own life once they go to their home. I'm going to look at the camera to see how it looks with the umbrella. Amy wants my hat. And I am not sharing my hat. I got this from my friend Bertha, who had a little shop in Augusta, Kentucky. And not only is it practical and keeps my head from getting burnt, but I have some sentimental attachment to it. I'm going to take the umbrella down. You're not able to see the house while I paint.
Oh,
So what I'll do is occasionally put the umbrella over the painting to check my values, and well, we're just going to work in the light because I want, my idea is that you can see what I'm working on as well as seeing the painting while I'm working on it. So speaking of working on the painting, as I'm working on it, I'm ready to start putting my composition together on the board. So
we should probably let you have some peace to do that for a little bit.
well, you're welcome to hang out, or you're welcome to, you know, it's kind of like watching paint dry. You might not want to watch the whole step by step by step.
Well,
And
it might work out better for you if we let you do your drawing and stuff on your own.
okay, well, I sure appreciate this view, and you're letting me come over and
Anytime.
paint.
We're glad to have you. Always good to see you, Ken.
Well, thanks.
And we'll be back and interfere from time to time.
Okay, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works out.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. So the first thing I need to decide is what the basic colors of the painting are going to be. And I'm going to choose a color to work from that goes along with my idea of the overall color scheme I want this to have. And looking at this, there's really bright blue, and there's a lot of green, and then there's that red roof. Those are the three colors that really stand out to me. And lately I've been really interested in the contrast between green and red. So my instinct is to maybe play with those colors for the underpainting, and it works out. I've got some green on my palette, so I'm going to go ahead and start with green. And I've got a flat Hog's bristle brush. I'm going to just take a little bit of solvent and mix it with the green, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange to muddy the green up a little bit. I don't really want a bright green color for my underpainting. I'm going to use a combination of my sketch and what's in front of me to block the shapes out on this board. So I know I want the house to be around here. And I think with it being on a hill, I'd like the house to come up pretty tall around this part of the painting. And then I know we have the hill, and it angles down just a little bit this way. So I'm going to have the hill come this way, and then I know that walnut tree is big and dark around this area. There are some bright colored flowers in front of the house around there. I don't like to work on a white surface, so I'm just spreading color around to break that white up. I might get a brush even bigger. Oh, it doesn't look like I brought a brush. This is a little bit wider. So I'm just going to spread some of the solvent and color over my surface. And this breaks that white up so that if I wanted to paint any light colors, they'll show up. If you paint white against a white background, it isn't going to look like anything. All right. Okay. Let's see. Let me check, make sure you all are still with me and you can see okay. Amy says that it's such an inspiration, close to Bob Ross. I'm waiting on Happy Little Trees. Wanted to ask you, I've been expecting with painting, do you mix your colors? Oh, well, I'm mixing colors right now. And what I like to do instead of mixing the color that I see right in front of me right from the beginning, I like to layer lots of different colors. And when I layer the colors, it gives me an interesting painterly texture. And, wow, I lost my thought. So when you layer, you get interesting colors, and you could also get little nuances of the colors mixing as you put one over the other that you wouldn't get if you mix the color. Like, for example, let's say I wanted to mix the gray of the house right now at the beginning stage. You just don't get as in-depth, or I don't know. It looks just a little bit different. So every artist has their way of doing things, and hopefully this will be helpful to you. You'll, as you paint, probably come up with your own way that you like to mix things. I'm definitely not the authority, like the only way to paint is the way that I'm painting. So I'm going back to the house. To me, the house is the main part of this painting. So I'm going to work on some of the geometry and just work with darks and lights. You see this is a muddy greenish color. This could be any color, really. Because I'm going to cover all of this paint with more paint. So I know once I get to the end of the house, there's background trees. There's a little bit of dark. And then there's that big tree. I'm not sure what that's called, but it's a real pretty green. And it takes up a lot of the sky. And one thing I like to look for when I'm painting, I don't like just a big empty space of sky. If you could find things that break the sky up a little bit, for me that's a more interesting sky. I'm going to grab a little bit more green to put on my palette. While I'm putting paint out, I'll put a little more orange out. You know, this morning I was cold and I had to wear a hoodie. And now that the sun's come out, I'm pretty warm. I wonder how it says it's only 64 degrees, but I guess the sun makes the big difference. I'm in the sun and the sun's beating down on me. Now, another important thing is this black fence. And I feel like it's an important part of the scene. It makes your eye go back as you look into it. So I'll have this here. I'd almost like to shift the house over just a little bit to have room for more apple trees. At this point, I'm just going to keep going with the plan. I won't. Can you see the cows walking up the hill in the background? Those cows might find themselves in the painting. I used to live close to a field of cows, and they make really good models. I really enjoy cow in a painting. Okay. Let's put our chimney here. The sun's hitting a lot of the house, but you've got shade along the area where the roof meets the wall. And all of this part is shady. That's the south side of the house. It's in shade, so this is shady. The fence only goes up to that first tree. Alright, now there's a porch here. The trees are in the way. I can't see it as well as I'd like to, but I might step around and do some studies when I get into more of the details of the porch. So if I've got paint in an area where I wish it was light, like let's say I wish this line where the dark meets the light in the house were a little further this way, what I could do is take a brush with a little bit of solvent and wipe the paint away. So when I'm working, I don't feel like I don't get too uptight about everything being in the perfect place as I lay the paint down. It's all flexible and I can move it around as I'm working. I'm standing at a little bit of a weird angle. If I do this for hours, it's going to hurt. I want to make sure that you could see. Now the way I see things, this roof, if you compare it to the sky, the roof is dark. But if you look at this part of the roof, where it meets the shadow here, the roof is light. So I'm going to have a little bit of darkness towards the top, but as I work down the house, it'll become light. Let me step back. Okay, there's a little window here. I should probably do some measuring. You've probably seen artists do this with the brush. And what they're doing is you use your thumb to measure the distance of things. So for example, I want to measure the height of this back building. So I've taken my thumb to measure that height. And alone, this doesn't do a lot of, isn't very useful. You know, it's obviously smaller on the board, but what I can do is use this distance as a reference. So if the height of the house is that amount, I'm curious what the length is. So I'll use that mark on my thumb to measure the length. And it turns out that this height is the same as this length. So I'll use the brush to measure that and measure that, and it is pretty close to correct. So now I want to make sure this part of the house is a correct width. I don't want the house to look shorter or fatter than it is. So I'm going to take that measurement of the end of the house and let's see, this to this, that is a little shorter. And I don't mind some abstraction, but I'd like to get the feel of the house that I'm looking at and not have it go too far off track. So let me get that height, and then I'm going to figure out the length. So it looks like it's 1, 2, and about 3. So 1, 2, 3. It's a little short. So maybe I'll keep rubbing. I'll take some of this part of the house down. Let's make the house a little bit wider. Can you all see okay? I might move the camera. Let's see. So Amy is falling with my colors. Well, thanks. Wait till I get the colors out. She also says you make it look so easy. I don't want to say that's true. It's not really easy, but the more you do things, the less of a struggle it is. But even after doing this for years and years and years, it's still a little bit of a struggle, and it's kind of like painting not painting, it's kind of like working a puzzle out. So I'm going to keep on. Now I noticed Ursula said yes. Was the yes, you could see everything okay? Or yes, maybe I should move the camera a little bit closer to the board? Ursula is an artist who I admire, so I trust her visual sensibilities. Whatever she says is what I'll do. I'm going to go ahead and put my windows here. This chimney up here. There's another chimney peeking up right about here. All right, let me see if Ursula answered. Okay, she says, yes, we could see okay. So I'm going to leave the camera where it is and just keep painting. Hopefully I'm not standing in front of the painting. An interesting thing about this wide proportion, it's almost like you're working on two paintings. When I learned how to paint, this shape, kind of like what you think of a photograph perspective, whether it's landscape or portrait oriented, is what I was used to working with when I work out composition and whatnot. And with the panoramic, you have to approach it a little bit different, but you don't want it to look like one painting here and one here. You want it to all come together into one unified work of art. I really want to put those cows in the background. So right now my colors aren't important at all. I'm just working out dark and light. I'm doing a lot of editing. There's a whole lot of really pretty things in front of me, but if I tried to paint every single thing, the painting would be so busy that even for me, and I like busy paintings, but it would be so busy it would just look like too much to look at at once. Let's see, I just got a text. A friend of mine says I should paint Colonel Young's cabin, which is just a couple of miles from where I'm standing. And Colonel Young's a really impressive historic person from Maeslick. He was an African American Colonel. He made it all the way to Colonel, and at the time, you didn't have a lot of African American people in the military at all. But he was born just a few miles from here, and his life's really remarkable. The problem, the house is, his birth home is on closed property. The property isn't open to the public, so I'd have to get permission. I think that the county is responsible for the house, and it's a really cool building. It would make a good painting, and it wouldn't be hard to get permission to paint it. And a lot of people don't know about Colonel Young, so it would be cool to do a painting that would help people, you know, that might not have known about him, know about his life and what he was able to do. Okay. So the flowers are pretty bright. So instead of adding paint, I'm going to put a little bit of dark paint there, but then I'm going to wipe the paint off. That will represent the light where the flowers will go. So I've got dark, dark, dark. And what will happen when I put the flowers against the light flowers against these dark spots, they're really going to pop out like flowers do. And I want to be careful because if I have too bright, colorful things here, it could distract from the rest of the painting there. So let's see, now I'm procrastinating a little bit. I'm nervous about doing it, so I'm going to work on this fence a little bit. Well, John just walked up. What do you think, John? Is it starting? Do you recognize?
I can't believe how far along you got in just that little bit of time you've been working here. It's amazing.
Well, hopefully now you see the composition, so
Sure.
you could tell what will be where. And my goal is that it'll be true to the space.
Yes.
But I'm taking a lot of artistic liberties.
Right.
At the same time.
Right. Well, you really captured the house where the trees are in the way, and you don't really, you see bits and pieces of the house.
Right.
You captured the house. Great.
Yeah, I love magnolias too. My family are from Georgia, so have a real soft spot for magnolias. But that'll have to be another painting. They're not going to make it in this one. And other than visiting my grandparents, I didn't really grow up in Georgia, so I don't. It's kind of weird. A lot of kids that grew up in the military live one place for a couple of years and then you move somewhere else. And what I found as an adult, I feel kind of like a man without a country kind of thing. You didn't really grow up in one place and make connections like if I lived in one place for my whole childhood. But now I've lived in Kentucky. I'm at my 20-year Kentucky-versary, so I feel like I finally found a home, and I have friends that I've known for many years, like you and Mike. I know it's 15 years. It's probably more than 15 years that we've been friends.
Yeah. Yeah, way back in the Augusta days.
Yeah.
Going to Beehive, and that was such a great, still probably pretty nice. Haven't been there since they've redone it, but it was pretty neat.
I call that time the golden age of me being in Kentucky. There were some real special people that had a lot to do with influencing me and encouraging me. That you know, a lot of them are still here, but we've lost some, and you know, you can't ever go back. If I had a time machine, sometimes I think I'd go back to 2005, 6, 7, and just stay there for forever. And it was just a neat time.
And it's pretty neat, the location or whatever. There's so many artists, if it's painters or potters or whatever. There's a lot going on around here in Mason County and Bracken County, I guess, too.
Oh, yeah, even now. We've got, for a small rural area, it's amazing how many friends I have that are artists or writers or lots of really creative
organic
people.
Farmers. Anyway, it's all interesting. It's just all the different scenario of what you have available out here.
Yeah. And the nice thing with the internet, I want to say 30 years ago, if you wanted to be an artist, you'd have to go into a big metro area to be able to get your work seen and to get your work out there. But with the internet, things have really opened up. You could live in a real small town and still get to show your work to people all over the world.
Right. And then they have the art guild too, to get people interested or to get together with other folks.
I'm real sad. With the pandemic, people can't use the clay studio at the art guild like they used to, and to have the classes and
that was pretty neat. I only got to do it for a few months, but starting out, you feel like you're in kindergarten and messing with the clay, and it all flobble-jobbles on you and all caves in, but you know, you just feel like if you've never done it before, like you're back in kindergarten. And you know, after a month of it, how things come out the way you want, you know, pretty much a cup or a bowl, whatever you might be wanting to tackle for the first time.
What I hadn't thought of, even if you can't use the wheel at the art guild, you could make clay sculptures. You could make cups and bowls and things by hand with no equipment.
Right.
And if you ever wanted a bag of clay, I've got more clay than one person should have, and I'm happy to share. My friend Amy, who I think is watching this, is a potter, and we've been friends for 20 years. She's one of the first people I met here in Kentucky, and we've kind of met up where I'll take her some clay, and then a few months later I'll come back and pick the clay up, and I'll fire the pots for her and get them back to her, and
sure, that's great.
I know your brother's a sculptor, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in
a sculptor.
He's in Connersville, Indiana right now, and moved from New Mexico, Albuquerque, but he's been California and Boston, and he still likes to dab at it. You know, I don't know, he's 74 or so, or something like that. Well, I say that, how time flies. I think he just turned 77, but he wouldn't want me to say that, I guess.
Well, I don't know. Well, we all know now.
You're only as old as you feel, and he feels pretty young, I think.
Sure. I know a lot of artists that have a lot of years behind them, and they still have a young spirit, and a lot of them have good health still.
Sure.
And I like to think there's some connection between making art and how, you know, psychiatrists know that it's good for you. It's good for mental health to make art, but I feel like everything's connected. So maybe these young artists with a lot of numbers on their age, it might have something to do with them being artists and not just
Right.
good luck with genetics.
Yeah.
I want to make a little adjustment to my easel. I'm standing in a really uncomfortable way because I don't want to step on the easel. Can you all still see me? All right. The last comment is that Ursula says, yes, we can see you. Hopefully you can still see with no problems. I'm tempted to go a little bit closer so you could see more of the painting, but one of the beauties of Impressionist paintings, because you're outside, you have to work real fast and you can't do a lot of details. So if you look at an Impressionist painting real close, it looks like a mess. You'll see bugs stuck in the paint and there's not a lot of details. But if you step back,
It jumps out at you.
like the view you see, it all comes together, and hopefully you can see, you know, a beautiful scene, or at least a representation of what
Right.
it's like. I feel like I'm ready to start putting color, and I think more or less the dark and lights are where I want them to be. Using this green up. I've lost the tube. I wonder where. Oh, there it is. You know, they talk about Picasso is famous for having a rose period and then a blue period, where all of his paintings use the same colors. And I've noticed I'm really interested in green lately. I'm doing a lot of green paintings. So this might be my green period.
Well, I'll give you a few weeks and the colors will start coming out in the trees and whatever, and then you'll be having a new yellow or orange.
Oh,
or-
yeah, I'm ready too. I love autumn.
I'm ready for it. I hope we have a nice one fall this year or whatever. I hope it was kind of dry, but I hope we get some color.
Yeah, last year was a dud. I don't know. Everything was green, and then it seemed like 1 week later, everything was brown and dead, and we didn't get the pretty colors that, as an artist, I like. All right, I think I'm ready for the colors. I can't believe the weather says it's 66 degrees, but I don't think that's right because I'm hot. I'm
Pretty warm.
the long sleeves are going, and this is a cool t-shirt. I don't know if any of you live in Mason County, but our high school has a really good art program, and every year they make t-shirts. Their honors art club make a different t-shirt design, and they'll sell these to make money so they can buy art supplies or whatever they need for
Right. Well,
for
that's a hot tip. I never
activities.
heard this before, but that's great.
Yeah. This I don't know if it has the year on it, but it has a Van Gogh style symbol that's the high school's mascot symbol, and then there's another version of it with Andy Warhol, and then down here is Dali, and then Picasso down here, and they're all different. Every year it's different, but I try to buy, usually I'll buy like 10 or so and give them as gifts.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I don't really need, I just, you know, art was real important to me when I was in high school, so I want to make sure those programs still continue and they have the support they need. All right, we're ready for color. So let's get some colors out. I'm thinking the sky's going to be green. and the grass will be green, and the house probably yellow for the lights hitting the side that is white, and then the gray is going to be tricky. I guess it'll be a gray with a yellow, and then the red of the roof will be fun. Okay, yeah, I've got a strategy. So I'm going to get some more orange out here, and I've got yellow, and I've got green, and I have gray. So I think that's an okay starting place. So for my blue sky, I'm going to take green, and I'm going to mute it with some gray. And then I'll add some white. When I look at this scene, the most bright, colorful thing is the sky. And I'm going to make it the most uncolorful thing because I want the attention to be on the landscape. So I've got this sort of grade. And you know how where the sky meets the land, it looks a little bit lighter, when as you go up, it gets brighter blue.
Right.
So I'm thinking this will be the color where the sky is a little bit lighter. Some around here. I don't know 100% what I'm doing. I might end up as surprised as you are with how the painting turns out. I guess as I go a little further up, there will be more
just
green.
a little bit there. It's somehow it popped. The house
good,
popped
good.
out when you put the blue for the sky, and it's amazing.
Well, thanks. I think I am going to get a little closer to the camera, or put the camera closer to the canvas. I think some of the ways I'm mixing might be interesting for people to see.
That one leg's on your stuff down there.
Oh, yeah, that'll be impossible for me to stand there if it's... Hopefully you could see that. So because the eye expects the sky to be kind of blue, and green is closely related to blue, the sky, even though it's green, might look kind of blue when you look at it.
It does.
And the other day when I was painting online, I talked about how there are some cultures that every language has different names for their colors. And for example, like the Eskimos, for the color of ice, we'd probably call ice white. But they had a handful of different colors to describe the different nuanced colors that ice might take on.
Wow.
And there are more than one culture that blue and green are the same color. They only have one word for blue and green because they're so close together on the spectrum. And so while I'm painting the sky green, I think about that phenomenon, and
Yeah.
it just colors, as an artist, color's real interesting. The way we perceive it, the way it'll make you feel different things.
I was pretty impressed earlier when you were talking about using the umbrella to shade it.
Oh, yeah,
To get
yeah.
the colors more from like taking it inside, the colors will, whatever, but it's just something, just thinking you would never thought of, but with you having your experience of doing this, you come out or learn stuff all
Sure.
the time, I guess.
Sure. Well, I sold a painting to somebody and they saw it online. So online, you have light. The monitor is light. So all the colors are illuminated by light. And then they took it home and they said, well, Ken, it just looks a lot darker and it doesn't look as bright as what we expected. So I always want people to be happy. So I would have taken it back if they didn't want to keep it. But I told them, try putting a light on it and see if it changes and it doesn't look more like what you wanted. So they wrote back and said, we did it and now we love it. And I went, whew. I'm glad it worked. Yeah, light and color are real closely related. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna need more green. Well, I'm turning green. It's not easy being green. Man, this leaked somewhere. Squeeze some more gray out. Oh, you know what? I had green all along. My colors are half in the shade and half in the light. More gray than I need. I don't mind my colors touching each other because it's kind of nice to have them all a little bit related to each other. It gives you a harmony that it looks like they all fit and they were meant to be together if the colors mix with each other a little bit. I'm going to get some of this paint off my fingers. I don't want the colors to mix places I don't want them to. Let's see. Well, 3 people are watching, but I think today's too pretty a day for most people to sit inside to watch.
Right, you get this temperature down and it's not so muggy and all that. It's great out.
Let's see. So I want to keep working on this where it blends from the lighter part of the sky to the darker part of the sky. I'm going to mix a little more of that green. Some white. Right. Now I feel like the green of the earth has more yellow to it than the sky does. So what I want to do when I start laying that color in, I'm going to use the same color as the sky, which is it's a Viridian with a this is a color by Holbein called Gray of Gray. And then I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to just put a little bit of sunshine. In it. So all of the grass, I might want more yellow. Yellow there. Now there's some trees in the background that the light is touching them, but they're real light colored. So I'm going to use that same green for the background, and I want to say back here, I do some of that, all of this. Gosh, I don't know if the cows are going to happen or not. I hate to turn up an opportunity to paint cows.
Hey, they move them around a lot, but we're always tickled when they're right here next door or across the road, whatever, so we get to enjoy them a little bit out there.
Yeah.
But they move them around quite a bit to give them different pastures, give them a break.
What I like about other people's cows, I can enjoy looking at them, but I don't have to deal with the day-to-day maintenance of keeping them fed and make sure they don't get loose.
So you're self-taught art. I mean, you took art like in high school and stuff, but everything else, I mean, you kind of just taught yourself as you're doing it. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I don't feel like self-taught is always fair because you always learn from somebody.
Okay.
You know, I've learned from other people,
Right.
but I didn't go to college and study art like somebody who went and got a 4-year degree with a focus on art. I've learned I learn a little bit different than other people. So when I went to college for 1 semester to study art, and I'd work all year to pay the tuition, and I'd pay the tuition, and then the classes I took were taught by graduate students, not the teachers. And, you know, they're just learning themselves, so the quality of instruction was not what I wanted to get for what I was paying for. And so the next semester I thought, well, I want to learn ceramics, and they're not even going to let me take ceramics until I get further along in the program. So at the time, tuition was $3,000, and I decided instead of take that $3,000 and put it into the university, I'm going to get a kiln and just some books and materials, and
Oh, sure.
and that's always been the way I learn. Instead of taking classes, I'll just start a project, and I've taken some workshops, and I've learned a lot from other artists that are a lot more experienced than me, but I didn't go through a structured academic training. So I think one advantage of learning like that, sometimes students will look just like their teachers, and I'll see some people's artwork, and I could tell you exactly who they learned from because the work looks so similar to that teacher. And I don't know many people that make art the way I do. It has a real unique to me kind of look. And for art, a lot of artists want to have their own unique style. And I feel like mine came out of that self-taught way of learning. And I don't think one's better than another. I think that different people learn different ways, and some people want to be held by the hand and shown step by step. First you learn this, then you learn that. And I've learned I just want to get in there. I just want to jump in with some art supplies and start making a mess, and then I learn from the mess. Wow, I just put a lot of orange where I don't want any orange. So I guess I'll move on to the roof, since I just picked a bunch of orange up with my brush. So this is a bright orange. It's more red, but it's not like a bright candy colored red. It's kind of muted and kind of has, I don't want to say rusty, but a more earthy Now there's a shadow where the chimney goes down this way, so I'll remember to put that in later. I want to step back. If I look from a distance, I need to get the gray of the stone house in, and then I think the bright white of the side of the house might be the most, that might grab your eye more than anything in the painting. And I haven't done much with the apple trees yet. I need to start working on them a little bit. But painting like this can be a challenge. Light changes, so your subject changes while you're working on it, and then you only have a certain amount of time, right, to do it. And Claude Monet was kind of famous for, if he wanted to paint this scene, he's one of the first people to paint outside, so he's famous for that. But if he wanted to paint this scene, he would have probably brought 6 or 7 boards like this, and on the first day he'd paint for maybe 30 minutes, and then when the light changes, he'd switch boards, and he'd start over with the light at 3 o'clock, and then he'd paint for a while, and then change the board for the light at 4 o'clock. And I want to say he'd come back the next day and have his paintings lined up, and he'd keep working at the 12 o'clock light, switch to the 1 o'clock light. So he has some famous haystack paintings, and it looks like he did the same painting over and over and over, but it's the same view at different times of the day. And
just like you were at when you started going around the front of the house and the light changed.
Oh,
when you
yeah.
First, got here, and you were kind of struck with the difference from your first view. Or when you were scoping it out, really.
I knew not to even start there, because I knew at noon the sun's about, everything on the right is going to start happening on the left. All right. So for the stone house, I'm going to mix gray with yellow. Yeah, I think that's the color. It's got yellow there, a little bit of gray, and I'm going to use some white. I'm not very good at this, but the way I understand it, if you don't have one solid color, but you have different values of a color, you'll kind of get a texture that'll make you think of stone without having to paint every single stone. So I've done some of the bright yellow. I might move on to the smaller brush. Does it have a sort of stony look? Is it starting to look
Yeah.
a little stony from there? Or
Yeah.
maybe purple. I'm trying to think of the color that is the stone in shadow. I'm thinking it's purple. I haven't used any purple yet. Boy, this is going to change everything. It's too dark. I'm worried I'm going to lose the shape of the chimney. This is light, and then when it gets to the top of the, where the pitch of the roof comes, then it goes out a little bit. So I need more light. Color, and then that darker color will be here. Hey, Mike.
See, so you're back here with your mask off, both of you. I caught you.
Well, we're way over 6 feet separated.
It really is
so-
12 to 30.
Yeah. Well. Uh-oh.
Looks good.
Well, thanks. Oh, it's looking good. We got
It
a.
is.
Well, My friend from Mexico just said that I hope you come. Oh, she hopes to come soon to Kentucky, and then she says greetings and a hug.
Oh, well, that's neat.
And then Ursula says, yes, it's looking stony, and it's the meditative.
Oh, it looks great, Ken.
Meditative escape she needed today. I need to step back and see. It's getting there. That purple's a little wild with the stones. For me, I'm going to tone them down a little bit. Okay, I think I'm ready to start working on the... Oh, I forgot to make this roof red. And instead of red, I'm going to stick with orange. You remember when I talked about how with a long panoramic painting like this, it's almost like working on two paintings at once. And I feel like I'm putting more attention here than here. So I'm going to come back and start working on those apple trees I love so much. I notice a lot of sort of reds in the shadows.
Oh, those are the apples, the ghost of the apple.
The ghost of the apple. Yeah. I'm real sad about those apples not working out. I love...
We had a few some years. This year we thought it was going to be pretty good, but the late frost, you know, the Reed Valley, they wound up with 99% of their peaches and apples and pears, didn't come along. They were all frosted out.
Well, we all suffer for that because I look forward to their apples every year. That's the people that do that. That's the people close to Carlisle. Am I thinking of the right?
They're out of Paris.
Okay, Paris.
Off of Route 27. And the people, I think Jennifer was the one that told us about Reed Valley. It's a really nice place, and this was, I guess, the worst year they've had. So they're closed right now to the end of September, and they're going to have a limited reopening schedule and hoping to, I guess, buy apples from somebody to sell there.
That's not the same. Let's see, we need some more white. Well, my mom's watching. Hey, Mom, I was just thinking about turning this off because I'm afraid my battery's about to die. And when I have people watching like this, sometimes I'm not as focused on the painting as I'd like to be. So I'm going to flip this around and say goodbye to the Facebook people and my mom. And I'll do a little close-up so you can see where I'm at with the painting. It still has a ways to go, but you could get an idea. Here's the subject, here's the house, and the apple trees. Yeah, I'm going to turn it off, and then I can paint with a little less worrying, but hopefully this is helpful for you all that watched, and it might give you some ideas on how how you'd like to paint. And Mike, John, thanks again for letting me
Hey, thanks for coming out.
me be here. I'm gonna turn this off. Let me flip it over around, and we can wave goodbye. Hey, goodbye. Hope you're all having a good Saturday. Talk to you later. Ursula says looks great. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for watching, Ursula. I'll let you know how the painting finishes up. Bye-bye.